Welcome everybody to another episode of the Startup Show. Today I'm here at the airport of Zurich visiting the showroom of Outfittery. I'm very pleased to introduce you to Anna, the CEO and co-founder of Outfittery. Welcome.
Thanks, happy to be here.
So welcome back to the Startup Show. Today we are here at the airport of Zurich visiting the showroom of Outfittery. I have the big honor to introduce you to Anna, the CEO and co-founder of this company. So welcome to the show. Please give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, about your person.
Yes. So my name is Anna. I co-founded Outfittery 5 years ago. I'm from Hamburg originally. I studied in Freiburg and I studied economics. And actually very early on, while I was still studying, I noticed that I'm not made for big corporates. I was doing an internship back then in an auditing firm, and I had so many ideas, and I went to my boss and said, hey, let's change this and this and that. And then he said, yeah, but we cannot do this, it's the board and they won't like it. And I had the feeling that I cannot bring my ideas on the road. So I was quite depressed after that internship, talking to a friend of mine who then said, hey, why don't you go to a startup? And back then, so it's like 8 years back, it was completely unusual to start the career in a startup. Mm-hmm. So actually most of my friends went after university to some big consultancy firms or so on. So I ended up doing my next internship in a startup and was completely amazed and loved the way that everything was working, loved the way how I, back then as an intern, was able to change actually the whole company. So that's how I found my way into the startup scene. Right after university, then started working for Rocket Internet and as well for Zalando. And that was as well part how we were inspired for Outfittery.
So that's interesting. So it's a nice segue. You just mentioned Outfittery. So maybe let's get right back into your startup that's already 5 years old. So tell us a little bit about the background and what you guys do exactly.
So Outfittery is a personal shopping service for men. So that means every customer who's signing up on our website gets his personal stylist, who's then taking care of all his needs and wishes around fashion. Mm-hmm. So you actually do a short onboarding call, or you can as well do this online and just give us all your preferences. What do you like? What shirts do you like? What colors do you like? What don't you like? Maybe you don't like button-down shirts, things like this. So you actually give us all this information, and from this information then the stylist is trying to compile the perfect box for you. Mm-hmm. With 2 to 3 outfits. We send it to your home for free, and then you can try on everything at home. Mm-hmm. And only keep and only pay what you like.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, as you mentioned before, you worked for Zalando. I guess you're inspired by this forth and back shipping. I mean, many people usually ask, how do you keep up the margins? I don't usually like to go into specific numbers, but what's your main concept when you say, we want to provide our customer and client the best service, but still keeping, let's say, the burn rate or the margins high enough to have an actual business?
Maybe one word before I answer your question to our mission. So why are we doing what we're doing? Because I think that the complexity, especially in fashion and maybe especially for men these days, is super high. When I remember my grandfather, how he used to shop, he had his man's outfitter, and this guy exactly knew what he liked, exactly knew what was in his wardrobe, knew his name and so on. And then at some point malls came and there came more and more items, and the catalogs came, if you look at the evolution of retail. And then at some point e-commerce came, and with e-commerce there is such a big complexity. So if you're looking for, let's say, a light blue shirt, then you get 600 results in an online shop, which you then should choose from. Which one is the perfect brand? Which one is the perfect fit for you? This is completely overwhelming for so many people these days.
Most men probably don't really care if which one of the blue shirt it actually
Absolutely. They just want a blue shirt that fits them, right?
Yeah.
So they want to be dressed well, but they don't want to invest all their time actually into finding their way in this very complex fashion environment. That's why we made it our mission, really, to bring down this complexity and offer the most relevant fashion for men. So by this, we as well, yes, we were inspired by Zalando in that sense, but actually what we saw is that, people are too overwhelmed by the assortment, and that's why we made this our mission. And then to come back to your question, how we make this functioning business model. So what we do not have is like the high rents, for example. And what we do see is that our customers, through our service, are keeping a lot from the boxes and are oftentimes really keeping a whole outfit, which is then giving us the possibility to invest this into a good service.
I'm not sure if you saw online, but this is the first episode where I'm actually asked prior to the interview on Facebook if maybe some of my audience have questions. And there was one very interesting question coming from Nicola. I'm not sure if you know him, but he is the new head of the Initiative of Digital Switzerland. And he was curious to know why you haven't expanded yet to the US market.
Good question. At some point, this might be a step for us as well. So right now we see such a big market and such a big opportunity in Europe. We are in 8 countries now in Europe. We're in the whole DACH region. Then we are in the Benelux and in Scandinavia. And first of all, want to grab the whole European market and then look beyond Europe. But it's definitely our plan and our ambition to address the whole world at some point.
When you look at fashion and retail business in, let's say, 5 to 10 years, what will we see?
I think we will see much more personalization, much more segmentation. Actually, I think the direction in where we are innovation driver actually to give a personalized shopping experience to every customer will be seen as well in many, many other areas, because customers do have different needs and wishes and want to be served different.
That's interesting because it does really, you can see with this marketplaces idea, with the idea of the shared economy, it's probably where we're heading, that everything is personalized to every single person. It's very interesting. Tell me, as a wrap up to this episode, I'd like to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurship, starting your own company. Maybe you briefly mentioned in the beginning, you didn't see yourself in the corporate world. What are maybe some tips you can give to someone who is out there and now thinking, okay, well, I am now working for an auditing company and I don't really like it and I can't really make an impact on the world. What do you tell them? What are the thoughts? What are the processes that they have to go through to say okay, well, maybe it's the right decision for me to start my own company or to join a company?
Yeah, first of all, I have big respect for everybody who made it in the corporate world, right, and found his way there through. I just felt it wasn't for me. But so everybody who's thinking about starting an own company, I can just say do it. It's an amazing journey. It's an amazing experience. I have the feeling that I learned so much in the last 5 years since we started. And it's very exciting. There are always new challenges. You never come to a point where you actually say, okay, now we're done. So as an entrepreneur, I think you're always driven. You always want to improve what you already have. You're never satisfied in that way.
Yeah.
Keeps you learning and keeps you awake as well. And I think it's a fantastic journey. So just go for it, try it, find a great co-founder and go out there, pitch it to investors and see what the feedback is.
Very good. Tell me, just one little thing about the startup environment that you are in. How do you see that it helped you? Or do you feel like you were left alone? Many times you hear from entrepreneurs and CEOs, well, I'm up there maybe with a co-founder, but we kind of by ourselves. We have the investors that tell us what to do sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you feel that the environment was helpful for you?
Absolutely, very much. So in Berlin, we have a very, very strong network of other entrepreneurs, and we help each other out. And there are so many things and problems that has been solved before. You just need to ask, right? Mm-hmm. You need to ask, how did you do this? And we definitely are doing this many, many times.
Yeah.
And this is super helpful. So you need to communicate with others and ask them and learn from their experiences. You don't need to reinvent the wheel extra time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I lived in Israel for 7 years and I saw that also in Tel Aviv. It's crazy and very nice to see how people actually work together.
Yeah.
Most of the startups, they're not in the same space, but even startups that are sometimes collaborate, and you can see you can conquer the world, especially when you look to Tel Aviv with what happens there. And I hear it also from Berlin and then hopefully in Zurich that will be also the case. You know, the Swiss mentality is sometimes a little bit different, but we hope that like the startup world will recognize the potential of working together also. Thank you very much for that insight into your company and your person. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much to you, for everyone watching. And I hope to see you very soon with another episode of the Startup Show. So have a good day, everyone.